Hello. So my name is Arturs, and I am a CTO at Countly. And I wanted to tell you about our journey of how we integrated AI tools in our development cycle and how we improved the efficiency. But before that, maybe I want to know maybe more about you so I can adjust what I talk about in the presentations, right? So, how many of you are software developers? Raise your hand. Okay, so quite a lot. I know Christoph said he doesn't count himself software developer, but if you are dealing with the code regularly, I think you are. So how many of you actually use AI tools on a daily basis? Oh, actually, quite a lot. Okay, nice, nice. Now that I get to know you a bit more, let me reciprocate and tell you about us, about Countly, the company. Right, so the most, I guess, interesting fact about us is not even about our product, but it's the fact that we are a fully remote company, which means we don't have any central office anywhere. We have employees in almost 20 different countries, from US to Japan. And yeah, we work remotely for more than a decade now, like 14 years, I think. So it's like, during COVID, it was popular to work remotely. We did it like way before then. And from this stems like lots of different interesting situations. Like I was hired fully remotely, never seeing anyone in the company, right? And I think only after 5 years working in the company is the first time I met our CEO in real person, in live, right? And to this time, like I have worked with people for 10 years more and I have never seen them in my real life, but I work with them on a daily basis. Right? So that's the interesting part of the full remote work. And what we do is actually analytics, right? And one might ask why a company could come to us for their analytics needs instead of selecting like hundreds of other available options on the internet, right? And that's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. First thing, we have tons of different features, as you see, that expand beyond the analytic realms. And the most, I guess, impressive thing about them, that they all are deployable to premises and can work in offline capacity. And this is basically the main thing that we do. We have customers that come to us with their specific needs, either by data regulations or government compliances, and we adjust it to them, and we basically provide them first-party analytics experience. It's like, imagine if you're a company and you want to implement your own analytics, but you don't want to really work and do all this hard work. You can buy our solutions and jumpstart it, and then modify it to your needs and customize it in an extendable platform. Right, and we provide the full source code and everything, and basically, yeah, our developers kind of work mostly on the new features and new solutions for our customers that work at scale and that could also work on self-hosted solutions and offline environments. And that's why the as-BOM and package part from previous presentation also quite important to us, yeah, because we are not as a service, we mostly deliver software, right? But back to our journey. So everything started when ChatGPT was born, right? And it was quite impressive. It could generate text, it could do some reasoning, follow some steps, right? And additionally, it could also provide some code. But was it really good? Was it really usable? Like I myself, I was a huge AI skeptic. I would never think it would go anywhere where it would be usable. But even at that time, there were already people that were hyping it up and saying, oh, this will revolutionize how we are actually developing software. Right? But as a CTO, I knew that if there is at least slightest chance it could increase the productivity of our engineering teams, I should keep it on my radar. And basically, that's what I did. Right? And that is why when GitHub announced their Copilot functionality, yeah, we are also using Money Copilot. We were the first one on the first day to actually sign up for the subscription and try it out. And we created a small team of 5 to 10 developers and purchased licenses for them and then tried it out, created a Slack channel, and everyone was sharing the stuff they were doing with it, where it worked well, where it didn't work. And basically what we understood, yeah, that it can generate some big structures. We actually work with lots of big JSONs in our models, so that was really great. It can complete known algorithms quite quickly. It can autocomplete tests. No developers like to write tests, so if they have some kind of access to an API specification or existing tests, they can improve them and continue writing them. It can make pattern changes on a large scale, so it was like the first version of GitHub Copilot without agents, without anything, right? So it could make pattern changes on large scale, like again, big JSON, adding things and CSV and stuff like that. Providing starting boilerplates for the things that are really known, like known frameworks. Using known libraries and APIs. So basically, if you want to, let's say, post a message to Slack or Discord, it would know which library to install, which API to use, and provide things like out of the box. And yeah, also explaining code. Maybe it's not that much useful, but if you have large projects and nobody knows everything, it also can come in handy. So we implemented this, and the feedback was mostly positive, so we decided, okay, let's start to use it. Developers started using it, and after 1 or 2 months we had a feedback session understanding what's going on, and turns out less than 10% of developers actually continue using it and did something. So we wanted to understand why. We collected developer feedback, and there were different kind of categories of the feedback, so it did not seem useful, or they did not know how to set up and how to use it. But most important point is actually my mistake, what Julia, I think, pointed out, that you need to actually establish quite clear GenAI tool policies, or where it can be used, right? So you see, from our side, most of our repositories are open sourced, and of course there's no problem using AI tools there. It's already open sourced, it probably was scanned by thousands of AI models before that, and it's fine. But some parts of the code are actually in private repositories, more like proprietary, right? So we need to decide, what do we do with this? We gathered together and we assessed, so why do we keep them private? And it's not mostly that we are afraid that our code would be leaked or anything like that, because we provide full source code to our customers. So it was more about licensing and kind of paywalling them, because those are kind of paid features and paid things that we actually charge money for. And we decided that using AI tools on them probably would offset the risks of sending the data to those servers. Because when you're using AI tools, your code is definitely sent to the server to be analyzed by LLM, and then you need to dive into privacy policies and understand what they actually can do with it, and if it applies to you or not. So we made a clear decision, like everything is fair game. You can use GenAI tools on any repository that we have, because all code is ours. There is no customer code. All code belongs to us, and we were okay with doing that. Additionally, we created some internal tutorials and had a dedicated session explaining how to use it. This is how we usually share the knowledge within the company. And we documented cases from the Slack channel of where it was useful and whatnot. But to be honest, majority of the things were basically using it as ChatGPT and doing some, fun stuff like that. But developers had fun. It had some kind of points, and yeah, we continued to using it. So we tried to use it for a couple of more months after implementing these changes, and we saw that over 80% of developers actually have used it in the last months. So yeah, it looks like it's implemented and developers are using it. So is it worth it? Does it pay off? Like when we look from the output developers, it's really hard to tell what's going on. Are there any improvements? Not really. So we decided to ask feedback from developers, and basically they were in two groups. There were hardcore fans saying, yeah, I'm using it every time I can and it helps a lot. And there were users that saying, well, I had enabled it, sometimes it autocompletes something for me and it's great, and sometimes it's not, but I don't really care, I have low expectations. But overall, we decided to subscribe, so we subscribed the whole company and decided to use it. And as a CTO, I thought, that's it, my job is done, we implemented AI in our company, and like, I don't have to really care about it further. Until, basically, I don't know, as a developer, outside of work, I have two interesting things happening to me. One is family and relatives constantly asking me to fix their computers. Does that happen to any one of you? Yeah, you can raise your hand.
Teapots as well.
Yeah, so it's like they're coming and asking, can you reinstall Windows? And like, I'm a developer, why would I know how to reinstall Windows? But you work with computers all the time. Yeah, on Mac. But,
install Ubuntu for them and then go run away.
Actually, to be fair, for Windows, this request comes less and less often. So I think Windows is becoming more stable now. But yeah, and the second thing, people like friends and others approaching me with their startup ideas and saying, let's do a POC for this and let's make a startup and let's go with it. This also, for some reason, happens a lot. And usually I politely decline, but I've been hearing a lot that AI is getting better at code generation and you can do much more. And even my, at that time, youngest son, he was like 8, 9 years old, he was already using ChatGPT to generate websites, Minecraft mods, Python scripts without knowing really what programming is, right? And I thought, if he can do it, probably I could do something too. So I decided next time somebody comes with me with an idea, I say, yes, I'll try to do it, but I will use AI tool for it fully. And if it doesn't work that way, like, I will just drop it and will not go further, right? So I researched what was the best LLM model for coding at that time, and I think it was Claude Sonnet 3.5 was just released or something like that. So yeah, and I finally got this side project, and it turned out to be quite complicated. So it has a multi-role system, there are global admins, there are specialists, there are users, specialists create questionnaires, users fill them out, then specialists review them, generated reports for the users. There is the huge search catalog with filtering, with maps, where they are. There is a direct messaging system, multiple authentication methods. So I estimated if I had to do it from scratch manually, it would probably take me around 2 months to complete all of that. Right, so I talked with Claude Sonnet and tried to understand what we could do, and the model suggested to use PHP because you can host it anywhere, and I worked with PHP like more than a decade ago before, so I had some knowledge with it, and it suggested to use Laravel framework, which I had no idea what it was about, and I decided to do that. As a result, I completed the project in 2 days, and it was really mind-blowing for me, right? I understood there is definitely something there. I just need to understand how I can grasp it and pass this as a tool to my developers to use in their work, right? But at that time I was using the web interface of Claude Sonnet, and you needed to copy lots of files, and copying was hard. And then if you change something in the code really, then LLM doesn't know about it, so you need to either tell it or always will keep making the same change, right? You're also retaining the whole project kind of in a chat, so we are losing lots of tokens, and the problem with Claude, using it directly, that you run into rate limit very, very quickly. I haven't purchased the premium version, and I still was limited, right? I need to wait half an hour for tokens to reset. And it's actually the reason why it was completed in 2 days. I think if there was no rate limiting, I probably could have done everything in 1 day. I used very simple prompts, right? So like add registration, add this user role, add that user role, add Google login, like add direct messaging system. Like even the fact that you can just write add direct messaging system, it's a very known thing that LLM know, and it could easily generate. I just imagine if I do it myself manually, like I need to create all the tables in the database, I need to create view for creating message, create inbox, read, non-read values, and all of that. Like that alone probably would take me a week to do. And yeah, just simple prompt and it's done. What I understood a lot, what was missing maybe from our work project is ORM, object relational mapping, helps a lot because then AI knows and understands the database structure. And when creating new fields, it actually can easily create them, create scripts for you to create them and map them together, and it always knows the state, and it helped a lot, right? And it still needed directions in architectural sense, because I know the whole scope of the project, and LLM does not, so like when it wants to create a field, but I know in the future it will be many interrelationships, so we need to create a separate table. I just navigate it to do that, and it does it. And there are some also problems, specifically like with versions incompatibilities. At one point installing some dependency, I actually had to ask LLM, which version of Laravel do you think we're using, right? And it replied, and I had to downgrade to that version, and then everything worked. Overall, mind-blowing results. So I tried to take it, yeah, maybe one more example before that. So as a developer, my weakness is UI, right? And this is what this is the result that we had with the Claude Sonnet. Basically, I was asking him to add functionality, and he just kept adding it, and this is kind of the result. So I thought it probably even created it better than I could, because at least it had this nice top. I would not be able to create myself anything like that without the design ready. So I thought we can still do better, and I asked like very vaguely, because I'm always trying to push them and see what we can actually achieve with them. And I asked them very vaguely, make admin panel beautiful. So what do you think? The end result was better than this and worse? So if you think it's better, raise your hand. Okay, if you think it's worse, raise your hand. Okay, I guess it's more 50-50, right? I think, yeah, it was definitely better. Maybe it's not perfect, but like just with this vague, ambiguous prompt, this is what it generated. And I think, yeah, that's what also was delivered in the end, and overall, it did much better than I could. But it's all still not usable for real work. Like, no matter how much I want to deliver it to my team and say, okay, let's do this, let's use it, copying files can result in human error, and as I said, everything must be done within the context window. You cannot apply it this way to the existing project. You can create only new one because you cannot really pump the code to the chat window, and then there are rate limits. You cannot use different LLMs, so lots of problems. And so again, I set it aside and waited for the next step, the next breakthrough, and it happened. Basically, it's like, I think Cursor was the first IDE that did a proper integration for it, and then the others followed. And it removed almost all of the limitations that we had. By default in work we use VS Code, so yeah, GitHub Copilot also integrated it, Cursor-like approach at some point after, right? And basically, yeah, you don't have to copy anything, you just kind of ask LLM to do it, and it provides Git-like changes, and you can accept them and undo them. Right, so you can modify code yourself, and it knows about modifications because it always takes the latest files, it speeds up the process, reduces human error. You can even switch different LLMs, but there was still a problem. The limited context file at that time was 10 files, and like even on my previous project I already ran into problem with that, and all the projects we have at work are huge, and it's not possible to really fit anything into that. So I felt like it's so close, we are almost there, we could almost use it normally in our everyday work, but still something is missing. And what we were missing is the next breakthrough, which came in case of two things, MCP and agents. So what agents do, basically, that you ask your main prompt, and it reasons, understands the step it needs to follow, and then runs them as a subtask on another LLM. That's why, like, you have separate context scope for this main prompt, and then separate context for each subtask that is run. So you don't need large context window, and you can work more. And I think basically right now you don't really even have to provide the context files anymore. It actually determines it itself and uses it, and that's great. And MCP, which is a protocol for communicating with other tools, right? So what it did, it allowed LLMs to access the file system, search for files, the command line, run commands, connect to databases, and even launch your application in browser and view it, right? And we could not wait for VS Code GitHub Copilot extension to actually have it, so we were looking for other extensions, and we stumbled on RuCode, which is forked from previous Klein. But no, yeah, it's a root code extension, and it uses OpenRouter, which is a service for LLM models that unites them under one API and under one payment system. You can just select what LLMs you want to use from which regions, from which providers, and use it there. And it worked really well, but RuCode had one problem. It was actually quite expensive, right? So you are basically paying for each prompt that you have, and for best or for worst, it actually displays the price for the prompt as the agents are running them, and it was really scary for developers, right? So it's actually set us back on the AI implementation more because developers were scared, or like they see how money disappears and where it goes, right? But finally, VS Code implemented agents too, and we could use that extension too. And actually, the thing I did not appreciate is that GitHub Copilot extension, or GitHub Copilot itself, provided unlimited access to all the models. And my favorite is also Claude Sonnet, and we were always using that. But I think since yesterday, they actually separated it. Now, there are free tier models, which is GPT 4.1 and GPT 4.0, and there are premium models like Cloud.net and everything others, and you have limited amount of premium requests. So if you continue using it, you would either be billed more for it or reach the limit depending on how your budget is set up. So please check it. The changes happened like in effect yesterday. So yeah, another problem we will need to solve in the future. But basically, with that, we also got our first kind of use case that we want to try. So one of the products that we have, we call Countly Edge Server. And it's basically the server we deploy when the customer collects data in an offline environment, but then at some point they connect to the online and want to sync data with centralized server. And this customer specifically, so they basically deploy ships, and on the ships there are multiple devices that run our SDKs, and they send the data. Problem is, when ship is away in the sea, in the ocean, they don't always have internet connection, and even if they has, it will be really costly, so they want to collect data internally on the ship, and when they dock, they want to sync it with their central analytical server to get the data. And this is perfect solution for our Countly Edge product that we have. Problem with that was that our Countly Edge server did not have any UI, so it was a black box. You just collect the data and set it there, and they said, yeah, we set it up, we are working, but we are not sure what's happening with our network internally, so we need some kind of sort of feedback. Problem is, we need it by Tuesday, and today was Friday, because then they need to test it and deploy it on the ships later that week, right? So what do we do? AI to the rescue, not lots of time, and yeah, this is the simple prompt we did. So here is the file, like 2 files, and we insert this kind of data in SQL table there, create UI to display those stats. So we don't mention any stats, we don't mention anything that is there. It's up to AI to kind of realize and understand and create a specific UI for that. And then it starts reasoning what it would do, and then it starts executing, and in the end it's generated our UI for this. So how successful do you think it was? So anyone who thinks the result was successful, raise your hand. Okay, a bit less. And if you think it failed completely miserably, raise your hand. Okay, not failed, but I guess suboptimal results, right? Honestly, the results were almost perfect. Like from that simple prompt, as I'm describing anything, it understood the data that is inserted in the database and understood the context of the data and created perfect dashboard for it, right? So even the simple things like, is the server which we are syncing, is it offline or online? Like we did not ask to do anything just from the data, it understood it's pinging the server, we're storing it, what's displaying UI if it's online or offline, right? And it was not completely perfect. So like, for example, if refresh data of the dashboard was smaller, like it refreshed more often, then we are actually pinging the server, which is different setting. Then it actually shows server online, then offline, then online. So it didn't know maybe the correlation there. So we had to test it, we had to fix it, but it got us 90% there. Just testing, validation, fixing, and we shipped, and customer was super happy about the result. And basically with that, a floodgate opened, and we started using these tools on more and more projects. So here you see this is the root code, and it actually shows the API cost, which is $1. It's with something for the task it's running right now, right? And you can imagine how scary it might be for developer to see that and knowing they're spending open money and stuff like that. So yeah, we try to use it on many different things. We even try to use different LLMs on the same task to see which one better performs. Cloud.net always came on top. The others were kind of more or less mixed, right? But yeah, we went through all our localization files, we fixed all grammatical errors, we translated them to other languages. Like we removed unused libraries when there is a large project, you know, developer modifies something, oh, they see this library not used, but maybe somebody else using it somewhere else in the code, so let's just leave it there, right? So reducing technical debt. We generated open API specs on all our projects, because previously there was a kind of manual updated documentation. We generated type defs for all JavaScript projects because we want to have type hinting in IDE, and there were old projects without it, and yeah, generating more UIs for different kind of products. And yeah, it worked really well. And we even try to push the limits, right? So we have one analytical dashboard which is older and it's written actually still in jQuery and Backbone View. And there was always this idea we need to modify it to something newer like Vue.js. That's what we like internally, right? So the idea was let AI agent open our analytical dashboard in MCP browser tool, view how it looks like, view its code, and then try to recreate it in Vue.js. And then open that in the MCP tool browser, view how it looks like, compare it with the old one, iterate, compare, iterate, compare, iterate. Like we spent more than $50 on those iterations. And this is how our old dashboard looked like. So what do you think? Did AI succeed with this task? Like raise your hand if you think it was close to this. Okay. Raise your hand if you think it was completely different. So, yeah, okay. And yeah, it was a failure, basically. It looked somewhat different, it was somewhat functional, but it's not something we could actually take and replace, and we have to do lots of work to make it happen, and we decided to scratch this problem. So then why? Why some projects succeed more and some projects fail, and it seems like we are doing the same thing, right? So there were key learnings for us from all the experiments and stuff that we've done, and one of them is explained by also this Twitter post. So there is a constant chance of error for LLM models, and you can quantize it like percentage of chance of error per some period of time, like 10% per 10 minutes is an example, right? So if your LLM model works 1 hour, there's 53% chance of success. If it works for 4 hours, it's only 8% chance of success. If it works for 10 hours, like it probably will not succeed. So no matter if you're using agents, no matter if the context isn't, you should not provide context anymore, or you don't care about the context window. When you're approaching tasks with AI, you still need to approach those tasks specifically. You cannot approach them like with another developer. Like as any developer, you can say, go and remove all unused localized strings that we have, right? With AI, you need to be kind of more thorough. Instead, you need to say, generate a script that removes all unused localization strings in the project. That way, you have this output, you can run it, you can check the result if you're satisfied with it or not. You can ask AI to modify it again, and then run it again and get the result and iterate, right? So this preserve of the result and iteration is really important because AI cannot run and do things continuously. Like, or if you want to tell somebody, go through all the project and make this change in all the specific files, right? Also, you cannot correlate this task to AI like that. You need to say, go through all the project and generate a list of files that needs modification, output it to the kind of file list, like in somewhere in the file, and then use this file to go through it and mark all the completed ones. So like even like separate the steps, and even if they fail, you have kind of status check and you can continue from that, so all of those previous work was not wasted and you have not wasted time and money, right? One other interesting result that we did with experiments, so we had a project, we asked AI to generate open API specs for this project, so we have this API documentation we did not have before. And then we use this API specs to generate the tests for this project. And then we ask AI to run the test and output results in a file with all the API endpoint responses and code errors and everything. And lots of tests failed. But we had this output, so we asked, use this output to improve our API specs. And it parsed through it and did modifications. Now update the tests based on the API specs. And the tests were updated. And we run them again. Much less errors, much less fails, but there are still some. So we iterate again, and each time iterating in each step, we have this output, we have this stop point, so that AI can start from scratch and start doing from it, and those kind of things work perfectly, and this is how you should approach tasks with AI. But yeah, not everything will be perfect, and AI mostly will get you to the path, like some percentage, but you need to still make the path yourself. And yes, similarly, like other colleagues noted, It speeds up development of the new things, right? When you start something, it can push you through and then you add more. It's great for refactoring and reducing technical debt, generating documentations and generating tests. Where we are now is that this mindset change that needs to happen. Like when I know we do all those things, I know we do lots of things, but when I wanted to quantify a result, how actually much AI have helped us, right? So I try to look at the output of a cycle. Cycle is basically a sprint. We just have a love-hate relationship with Agile, so we call them cycles. And there was not maybe much a difference, right? And why is that? And it all boils down to the trust of trusting AI. So when developer commits to a task in a cycle, like they're committing, I need to finish this with this amount of time, and they cannot trust AI to actually try to do it and fail and waste their time. They're trusting their own skills more. But if something outside the cycle comes up, or refactoring, or client frequently needs it, because we also have some time dedicated to that, perfect. This is where we can use AI and do that, right? So this is this mindset, and this is also why it explains why these are the tasks that it's used the most, because those kind of tasks that sometimes we do like outside the cycles, right? And gaining the trust is not an easy path, but this is the process, and we are getting there, right? So what I want our developers is to develop this kind of background process in their mind, like when they receive a task, I want them to assess. Can AI push me further in this task quicker? Can I achieve something with AI or not? If not, do it yourself, no problem. If you can, try it out and push it this way, right? And yeah, get most of the way and finish the task with manual adjustments. Another thing that I noticed is that while we were doing this in engineering, other departments kind of noticed this too, and sometimes when they ask actually the product team to do something and they say they have no capability right now to do that, they ask, oh, maybe you can use AI to actually kind of speed up this test, reprioritize. And as a developer, I might even get offended by that. It's like, okay, like I'm using AI, but I'm still wasting my time doing that, right? But as a CTO, this speaks to me that the work we done have been noticed by other departments, and that, yeah, integration is going successful and we are progressing. And yeah, there are kind of usage expands, and GitHub Copilot offers more and more things. Now the next best thing we are using is pull request reviews. Yeah, we have, of course, GitHub pipelines, and we have code analysis, dependency analysis, and test running there. But just having additional pull request review, we still have human reviews too, of course, but just getting additional review is also great. And there are more other features coming out, one of them even vision input, which I have not played with, but it looks like GitHub Copilot still tries to improve it and provides us more things to do. So, are developers replaceable? And the answer is definitely no. Like, there is a Twitter story that somebody tried to create their own SaaS with zero knowledge through Cursor, and they managed to do it, but then there were like lots of problems with it and security stuff. I'm not sure if it's real or not, but I think it kind of summarizes what can happen, right? AI is a tool to increase developers' output, not to replace them. So what I want to achieve in the end in our team, in our company, that every developer becomes sort of a lead with AI tools at their teams and basically increasing the output and trying to do more. But you still need those developer experiences to actually use those tools properly. Because like if you don't know the language as mentioned or anything like that, you might be in trouble. And you still need to convert these business requirements into software requirements and understand them and validate. And maybe more for the future. So what's next? What do we do more? What do we need more to improve our output even more? And mostly it's better LLMs. It's LLMs with that smaller chance of error, as we mentioned, right? And yeah, better models. RuCode, for example, has one interesting approach called Boomerang, and basically they provide more context-specific agents. So you have an ask mode. I think most actual tools have now ask mode. Then you provide the concept, and it kind of creates the requirements for you. Then you take those requirements and you provide it to architect mode, and architect designs how the whole solution should look like. Then you provide it to the code mode, it codes it, and then you provide it to debug mode, which can test it and then create documentation for it. So maybe we get better LLMs, maybe we just get better specific context agents. In any case, this is the direction that basically we need to progress further. that's about it. Yeah, question?
You have mentioned that GitHub Copilot had introduced some large language model. Maybe I missed it, but you also mentioned that you not agree with it, or?
So yeah, basically previously you could use Claude Sonnet Unlimited and you did not pay additional price for it.
Yeah.
Now they said only GPT 4.1 and GPT 4.0 will be free for all the tiers. But then for Claude Sonnet, for Gemini, for others, those are premium requests, and depending on some plan, you have limits of premium requests. And if you can either reach them and you are rate limited, or you need to pay the additional if you exceed them per month.
And have you tried to disable some of the functionality of GitHub Copilot for your project?
Right now we set up budgets, strict budgets, so if we are over this limit, like, so we would not charge more, because I want to monitor how much spending we would actually have and how much different models do we use, and then based on that we can decide on the budget and increase it, right? But yeah, there are settings to control the budget in GitHub itself, and that's what we're mostly using.
Yeah.
Disabling it, like, I'm not sure, I would rather have definite set budget per month for developers to play, rather than disable some models completely.
Okay.
Yeah?
First of all, thank you for the presentation. It's kind of so exciting, better than coffee in the evening. So, and the question is, like, there is a saying that basically AI is amplifying your knowledge, not building it, like, in a way. So, on your experience, would you agree or disagree from your experience?
Okay, I think maybe there are two parts of it. If you're a capable developer and know overall generic things, yeah, definitely. It would amplify you and allow you to do more. But if you specialize, for example, you know this code base specifically more, right? That somebody new can come in with AI and they could be almost equal to you. We just spoke about it actually today. And yeah, that is true, right? So you need more generic knowledge and experience, but not product-specific one or project-specific ones to stand out. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit more specific question. You have mentioned MCP, like browser for browser.
Oh yeah.
Any specific recommendation to do that? Any specific tool? I mean, that could be incorporated.
Yeah, so we use the RU code with OpenRouter for this, and it has lots of MCP tools built in that you can use. And yeah, we even tried to create like an agent that would monitor specific type of Jira tickets, and if it comes out, it would check it, try to reproduce this bug in the browser, right, and then kind of fix it and make sure it's reproduced. But it got really complicated really fast, so we kind of scratched it. In the end, I think GitHub Copilot introduced GitHub Code or something like that that does similar with GitHub issues. But yeah, so the way that we mentioned, like recreating the dashboard, so using the AI to view the dashboard and to compare it with what you created. Like, so these are the most use cases: reproducing bugs or kind of checking the work that they did. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Have you tried some vibe coding tools like Replit or Lovable? Bold.new, there are many different ones like this.
Actually, no. Like we mostly started, yeah, like what fits us more at the current code base what we have. So yeah, I know there are Lovable, like mostly for UI or for some kind of smaller maybe applications, but like we are talking about like 1,000 file projects that we're working on, and that's definitely enough for us.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
If I may, another one. So previously we had a kind of tendency to have like readable first code, because we kind of are prone to change it rather frequently. But what do you think, should code become AI first? I mean, like compatible first, so it would be easier not to dive in and understand and read, but rather just change it with AI?
That's a really good one. That's something I have been thinking on, and I think maybe in future it would be like this. It's like, oh, like reusing the functions or anything like that. It doesn't matter. We can just copy and generate it again and use it again and decouple code and make it better, because AI could handle it. But I think in overall we are not there yet. Like if we do this, we still need lots of input from developers itself, and if we do this right now, it would not end well.
So it's not done yet.
Yeah.
Generally. Okay.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I have another one. Since you did that experimentation, do you maybe have some kind of guidelines or suggestions how to prompt AI better so it builds better structure or similar, like so the project is better?
I don't know, I'm not really, I don't think prompt engineering maybe is the right word. It's more like I mentioned about how do you break down your task, and you always consider that it will be AI and you always need some kind of output from it, and so it could continue based on that output kind of thing, right? So even when adding features, if you go really broad and it needs to modify a lot, you could probably get stuck somewhere and start getting this chance of error rate. So you still need to break down into smaller features and ask them to add them. And yeah, as I mentioned also before, like because you know the whole project, you can navigate and saying, oh no, do this, do that. But like just providing everything and doing everything kind of from scratch in one go, I don't see that happening yet.
Thank you.
Okay.
No more questions? Okay, then chocolate time.